Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Esports Talkshow. My name is Campbell. I'm your host for the evening, but joining alongside me are the two men that are always joining me, and I'm very, very happy about it. It is Tony from Bulldog and Paradox as well. Paradox is ready to get this show started, kicking it off already with the 1, 2. Look, he's just
I'm ready, man. We're finally back.
I know it. It feels honestly
feels like forever.
It was a long time ago. It was a very long time ago. We've had a bit of changes here and there, but no, the original, the OGs are here. We're all back, and we're ready to talk about even more Call of Duty, and there's a lot of Call of Duty to talk about, Paradox. We had, obviously, the local event in Birmingham, local to me and Tony, I should say, the CWL1. That one was quite interesting, and joining us as well, a special guest, if you haven't seen it, will be Benny G later on, the player from the team Zealous, who actually ended up making it all the way through the open bracket and actually playing on main stage versus Millennium. And a series, I would say, Tony, that for a lot of the time throughout it, I did honestly think that Zealous were going to take it off with Millennium, but I guess experience prevailed in that one. But we've also got loads of stuff to talk about in terms of the Call of Duty Global Pro League as well. That is just around the corner, so we've got to talk about that, talk about some of the first week matchups. Who do we think is going to take them? And also, remember, this is the Talkshow tournament, can be decided from here. So we were talking about a lot throughout the tournament where if you do watch the talk show, you can have your say, you can get involved, and you are the people, you have the power to decide which tournament we will host next Tuesday. So then, let's start off with a little bit of introduction between you guys. Tony, how have you been? How have you been doing? You was at I-60 recently.
I was, mate. I've been busy. Apologies, I weren't here the other week. I had to work. Someone's got to keep the universe safe and all that. So, yeah, I've been doing that. I'll see you at I-60.
Is that good?
It feels good to place where we placed, to be honest.
Okay.
I was a bit buzzing about that, right?
I do have to say, Bulldog had a great weekend. And managed to push, I think, past what some people would expect of where they would have placed, and they managed to I say some.
I was going to say not me. The thing is, we won when it was an amateur event. The last insomnia, we won it to sort of confirm to me that we were the best amateur team. And then we went on to place same as Zealous, the two highest placed amateur teams. You know what I mean? The only ones to make it to the championship Sunday. So for me, it was good because it was a confirmation. You can do well once. But in a short space of time, if you're the best twice, then it sort of makes it a hand-down situation, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so overall for them, I don't know if you got the chance, or you wouldn't have got the chance to see that, Paradox, because most of the open bracket games don't get streamed at these events. But yeah, they had a good performance. Ended up going up against Team Descend, and ended up beating them 2-1. So it was quite good for them to make it to the stage that they did. I'm pretty sure as well, I don't know if you can let us know, Tony, but those guys sticking together?
Yeah, so, it ain't announced yet, but there's no reason to change it if it ain't broken. The thing with these guys is they all get on well. I said to a couple of people, I was more confident going into this event than I have been for any event because they practice properly. They actually go through tactics. They talk to each other. They'd only been a lot together. So people didn't realise, as a whole they'd only been together about 4 weeks. So they hadn't been together as long as some people may have think, because Patter and Chunk's been together all the while, you know what I mean? It almost seemed like this team had been, it hadn't. It'd only been I think we'd done 2Ks together, but because of a gap, so it'd been about 4 weeks. And in that time, they'd put a lot of effort in and they'd actually worked through strats and it sort of paid off, you know what I mean? So I'm excited to see where they'll be in another 2 months. You know my theory, the same with Fnatic. It takes two.
Stick together, you win together.
We also had a hybrid team that done well there as well. So unlike some orgs, we actually have a mixed team because the girls we've got feel that it's better for them to sort of play like that. So I think it's important they get a mention as well because sometimes they get overseen. And originally in the community, female teams used to never win a game. And at I-59, our hybrid team finished 8th. And then at this event, they still placed respectable, you know what I mean? They still won 2 of their games. Yeah. It was an unfortunate thing when they actually played our main team for in the winners run at the start, you know what I mean, in the second game until they got beat by them. But there's no shame in that because it shows the quality of our team for where they're placed. So, like I said, Sammy and Robin and that definitely deserve a mention because they're trying to do things for women gamers out there.
Definitely a solid weekend for the Bulldog Esports organisation. But anyway, Paradox, how have you been, my man? I'm sure you tuned into I-60 when you had the chance to. Got to see the action going down over there in Birmingham. Were you impressed with what you saw from the EU talent?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially as soon as we get to talk later about what happened in that grand final and everything. I was sitting in my seat, sometimes just screaming my mind off. But I watched as much as I could, right? I've had like school stuff going on. We had our little adventures at UMG not too long ago, although it already seems like it's been forever. I don't know what's going on right now. Time is going on way too fast. But yeah, I watched as much as I-60 as I could. Of course, we've had the Talkshow Tuesday tournaments finally kicking off. So I've been a part of some of those, paying attention and going playing some Black Ops 2, IW. Yeah. The new DLC is out, actually. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I'll probably do like sometime tomorrow.
And I mean, that's a good point to bring up as well. I mean, Esports Hub, we're growing and we're getting bigger. I mean, take a look at this here. So this is our new snapbacks. We gave away a few of these at I-60 over the weekend.
I'm still waiting to get mine.
T-shirts as well.
And they do look better on other people, by the way. Do not judge
so
this
I'm not like a model or anything here. I'm not the best model for this one. But no, these are the stuff that we were giving away, and it was actually great to have a really good turnout. I want to quickly just touch upon it before we do move on with the rest of the show. We actually did a giveaway, me and Johnny. We brought a box down filled with all sorts of apparel. We had snapbacks, we had jumpers, t-shirts, and there was a few people that we already knew we was going to give stuff away to. They was on a list that they'd already, especially from our Twitter giveaway, people who had won the Twitter giveaway, we knew who was giving it away to. And I think one of the things that really, really made us smile was a couple of the younger kids came up to us and knew who we were and actually said they tuned into the talk show and they've watched the talk show and they've been in some of our tournaments. So it was nice to give away some of the shirts to people that we necessarily going into that event didn't even know were wanting something. I remember speaking to the one guy that, if he is watching, who said, I always get third place in your tournament, but one day I will get gold. And he took a picture with me and Johnny as well. But it was just nice to see a turnout and realize that people are recognizing who we are and what we do over here. So if you are watching, I will get Paradox to give you a wave as well, since you haven't seen Paradox. If you are watching, Paradox and Tony, if you didn't get the chance to meet Tony as well. But we can't thank you guys enough for getting involved with that one, and obviously, just showing your support and being involved with everything. But we're talking about the Global Pro League. And that's the first thing that I want to start on talking about. Paradox, it's kicking off soon. And let's talk a little bit about that first game that we've got coming up to start off with as well.
I can't believe they actually did this. Like, I really can't. Envy versus Splice is going to be your first game this Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. What in the world?
World Champ Finals recap. The rosters have changed, but
I can't believe it. I think actually this might be the only group where I don't know. I think I saw the schedule for all the groups, and yeah, here we go. I see FaZe Clan versus Fnatic, United Millennium, Optic Red Reserve. Yes, so this is probably like your closest first match for one of the groups with Envy versus Splice kicking things off. Their second matchup is to be determined. It'll either be sometime on Sunday or Saturday night. They're trying to keep schedule opening to push like the big matches up there that are really played to that seeding. But to have those teams kick it off, I mean, kind of sucks because they don't have like a warm-up match going in. But honestly, as far as the level of competition, I wouldn't have it either way. Like, it's just so cool to just boots just straight flying through. Just like, all right, it's time. We've waited long enough. Let's get it started.
I mean, what a way to kick it off as well, like you're saying, that kind of Call of Duty Championships rivalry back up again. Obviously Envious took that one. Obviously, I did say previously, these teams have changed a little bit. I mean, the Splice team has changed, but it's going to be an exciting match to kick off. And the interesting thing is as well, you would kind of look as the main game from this group. Well, I am really interested in the Cloud9 Mindfreak one, because
I am too.
Cloud9 versus Mindfreak, I honestly reckon Mindfreak can take that. I honestly reckon Mindfreak can, if not take it, really give Cloud9 a run for their money. Obviously, we've spoken about Cloud9 a lot through the entirety of this show and spoke about how Cloud9 have looked a little bit shaky, and really only towards the latter tournaments they've started to be a little bit better. I mean, Aches is just Aches, and he, when he's pushed his back against the wall, he really does start to turn up. But going into this one, before we take a look at the Cloud9 Mindfreak, I want to go to you guys for a prediction on this Splice Envious one, because that's going to be our first game. So you've got the best team in Europe, who's just come off an incredibly tough defeat at I-60, which we'll talk about later on. But going into this one, then I'm going to come to you first, Tony. Are you backing the EU Giants? One of the best. I mean, that's the thing. I know you're going to back.
Looking at Tony's predictions,
Europe,
and
I would expect
pretty firm on the side of EU.
Europe, yeah. But I mean, going into this one, do you honestly see Splice taking it against Envy?
Yeah, of course I do.
3-0?
Nah, but the thing is, right, I don't think you should take away from Splice the final. I don't want to get into it too much, because I think, if you remember when they made that change, I said that I thought that Epsilon team would now be really strong because it'd have the same effect that Tommy had. So I said that at the time. I thought that's what they needed. So I really do think that Epsilon team's going to smash it now. I think they're going to do really well. So I don't think there's too much taken away from Splice. I just think that strip team is really strong. And I just think, if anything, like I think it'd have done them a favour because when you're sort of not cruising, but when everyone thinks you're the best in that, sometimes you need to kick up the backside to remind you that you still need to bring your A game all the time. And I think they're going to show that. So I've now made an excuse why I'm just blatantly biased towards EU teams.
Well, we're gonna actually. One thing I'm definitely gonna do with this talk show is we're gonna keep our predictions. We'll have a little graphic made, and we'll see how right we actually get. Yeah, we're gonna see who comes as the best prediction. Who's got the best predictions in the entirety of this talk show?
I'm gonna win this already. So I'm ready.
I mean, Paradox will have like 7 A4 pieces of paper and why he thinks the choice he's picked will be the winner. So, Tony, your first ever prediction in our little talk show game that we're going to have on here, give me the score in the Envious versus Splice.
We're doing scores. Ooh. I reckon it'll be, I don't know. It's best of 3, isn't it?
Is it best of 5?
Best of 5. Cool. So I reckon it'll be, I don't know, fuck it, 3-0.
3-0 Splice?
Yeah.
It's locked in. It's locked in. Tony 3-0 to Splice. Paradox, your first entry into our game.
It's going to take about 15 minutes.
I'm saying 3-1 Splice.
Ooh. Really?
Yeah.
Well, fair. At least you said when you aren't hanging the Envious hoodie up on the back door.
I wore it to school the other day, too. The funniest thing. But
okay, Paradox.
I'm saying 3-1.
I know you've got 3-1 Splice. Okay. Give me the reason why, because I want to go to you about this one. I understand Tony's prediction because Tony's back Splice a lot. You know, European guy himself, loves European Call of Duty. But Paradox, what makes you go against the Envious lineup in this decision? And
I feel like
stupid. Right.
I feel like right now Splice is a better team than Envy. Like, I don't know what's going on with Envy. We've seen them go up. We've seen them go down. It seems like when they actually sit down and grind things out, they look a lot better. But that being said, I haven't really been able to see much of their practice going into the Global Pro League, right? I know Splice is just coming off of a LAN at I-60. That experience, no matter what happened in that final, is very valuable. And now that that team has had that experience as well, I feel like they can get that out of their mind. It's like, okay, now the big money's on the line. We have a huge week coming up. We need to focus up. And I think we're going to see that when they come out the gates.
And I also feel that Splice is a type of team where that loss will help them rather than hinder them, because they will look at what happened. If they dominated the whole tournament without dropping a single map,
they would have come in and lose this game.
Yeah, they would have gone into the next tournament, the one where it matters. And I think, yes, confidence would have been there, but there's nothing to learn. There's nothing to take from the previous tournament. I think in a way, in a really weird way, it may sound stupid, but that loss helps that Splice organization, because the way that Splice work as a team is they always look back, they always take a look at where they went wrong, what happened, and they'll move on from that. They knew that going into I-60, it was a tournament that was big, but it wasn't as big as the one that's coming up this weekend. So I think they will take from what they did, what happened against Epsilon, and I think they will learn from that and going on further into this one. I'm going to, however, go against both your predictions.
Okay.
And I'm saying 3-1 Envious. That's going to be mine that I'm locking in. I just feel like you cannot underestimate this team. This Envious lineup is a world champion team for a reason. Their roster is still yet to change. The likes of JCap and Apathy, those two players are insane. Then you've got John who comes in there, and then Slasher to top it off as well. I guess I kind of understand why you're looking at Splice as one of the teams that wins, because, I mean, you take a look at Envious at ESWC. When they go up against European talent, they have looked shaky. They have looked like a team that sometimes can get beaten by these European teams. So I kind of agree where you're coming from, but I'm locking in 3-1 Envious. I want to see if anyone in the chat, though, has said anything, who they think.
I see what DC Studios Live is saying 3 Splice 3 Envia 2. That's also I think this is a Game 5 potential matchup as well.
I think it is as well. I think
it's got not out of
way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's our first prediction locked in then. So they've all been recorded now. You cannot change them. They're locked in for the next talk show. We'll go over them, see if we're right or not. We'll come back and see who gets awarded the points.
Who do you think finishes 4th in this group, though?
Oh, you want to take a look at the grid? So, okay, so anybody that's tuned in doesn't quite know who's in the group. It's Splice, Cloud9, Envious, and Mindfreak. Now, I think the immediate thing to say, Paradox, off the bat would be Mindfreak. I think that's just the immediate thing would be like, okay, Mindfreak, the smaller team compared to the other three. However, I don't necessarily think that's how it ends. I'm going to say off the bat here that Cloud9 finished 4th in this one.
I could see that. Especially you start to get into the discussion that Mind Freak's been practicing against NA teams recently too.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Tony, who finishes 4th?
I don't know. Right, I think Cloud9 might do better than people think. I just think they're going to get better. They've got to get better. I just can't believe that they're not going to get better. So I think it might be Mind Freak. I wish it wasn't. I really don't. You know, I actually quite like the idea of Mind Freak, and I think it's going to be really good for them. I just think that Cloud9 have got to get better. Like, there's potential in that team. They can't keep underperforming.
Yeah, there's definite potential.
And the longer they play together, they've just got to get better. They have to. So I don't think it'll be them, to be honest. I feel bad for Mind Freak, and I hope they do well. And I hope I'm wrong. I don't often want to be wrong, but I hope I'm wrong on this one. But I think it'll be Mind Freak. I just think Cloud9 have got to get better.
Right, well, while we're on the topic of Cloud9 and Mind Freak, really quickly, let's lock in our second answers for the game. So, Tony, Cloud9 versus Mind Freak, series score?
3-1.
To Cloud9?
Yeah.
Okay. Paradox, Cloud9, Mind Freak, series score?
3-2 Mind Freak.
Ooh.
Okay. And I'm going to lock in 3-0 Cloud9.
Oh.
I thought it was like Seminole.
They're going to come out on top. I just think they're going to go in with this one quite strong. I feel like Cloud9 as well will realise in this group that they're lost to Mind Freak. They are struggling. You know, this is a really important game for Cloud9 more than Mind Freak, just for the pure fact that Cloud9 know they've got 2 very strong opponents to come up against, and if they go into this one with a loss straight off the bat, it's going to look shaky for them.
The thing that I'm kind of worried about C9 is all they have to do is not finish 4th. As long as you don't finish 4th, you are guaranteed to go to champs.
And that's why I think this game against Mind Freak is so important for Cloud9, because I'm not saying that Cloud9 don't have the capabilities of beating Envious and Splice, because on a good day, Cloud9 definitely have the capabilities of beating those 2 teams. I just think for the whole mindset purposes and how much more relaxed you will be as a team if you are able to get the easy win.
Fired up going into it.
Yeah, and if you can come off the bat with the first win, and it's like, you know, you look at that rest of that group. If Aches is sat there going, okay, well, we've got Mind Freak, but then we've got Splice and Envious. If you just want that win, you just want that solidified win, so that when you do go up against the likes of Splice and Envious, it's not as, okay, this is the last. We must win this, or we're not making champs.
MVC9 would be a good game, wouldn't it? Because if Splice beat Envious, like we think, and say Splice were to beat Cloud9, and there was games like that game would be like a decider, wouldn't it?
That's like your second place game, yeah. Yeah. That's that one's on Saturday. That's the last actual scheduled matchup we know.
So they probably looked at it and thought it'd be that way as well. So the people doing the programming, they probably just worked it out like that and thought, right, we'll put that game as the last game. Everyone's going to want to see where it.
I do have to say as well, some of those leaked photos from the MLG studios, it's looking incredible.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you guys have managed to get the chance to see the studios on top, but it does look really good. I don't know.
Hey, mate, you went to go to Canada, bruv.
Well,
I'll go Birmingham, you know what I mean?
Sadly, I haven't made it all the way over there, though, but we're going to see some great
company talent. Me out somewhere. I ended up in Afghanistan.
And it was not for Call of Duty either, but well, it kind of was a Call of Duty in a way. Yeah. But anyway, we'll move on to the Call of Duty World League a little bit more and the map set change. Now, we briefly talked about this on the last show, but I want to talk about it a little bit more because now we've seen Scorch Search and Destroy disappear, and Breakout Search and Destroy is now going to be that new map that's been involved into the competitive scene. Now, the first question I'm going to just ask you guys, because I'm interested to see, is do you think that really does mess at all with the players' minds and really mess with the players, like what they've been doing for the entire year? Or is this just something where, look, we get a new Call of Duty every year. You guys have to learn the new games every single year anyway. So surely this should just come naturally to you guys. It's just something new to learn.
I think any change, right, it's a pain in the backside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you're just so used to playing with it. Even when that mad jumpy slam thing they done. Like, look what happened to Cop. He was on top of the building and he got taken out, and that was 5-5. But like, they just make these changes and people ain't used to it. You get so used to playing a set thing, you know what I mean? Now, when you change it, it's going to affect people. Some people, it just is what it is, you know what I mean? End of the day, they've got to get on with it. They will get on with it. The games get played. But any change, when they change the way the weapons are, anything will make a difference, you know what I mean? Because of just what they're used to. It's just how big a difference it'll make in the end.
And do we think that losing Scorch as a map is a bad idea, or
yes, because that was one of our strongest maps recently.
I mean,
I'm not gonna lie, that was our best one, and they took it out. My lads were like, "No."
It's very different as well. Like those two maps are completely different. You've got Scorch, Search and Destroy, which had some rounds which would end within 30 seconds. It was kind of one bomb site type of Search and Destroy game mode, which was the A bomb site, because if you could put the bomb down there and back up to all the way, how many times did we see Millennium on the weekend against Red Reserve at I-60? They did that for like 3 or 4 rounds in a row, and you just can't stop that. If you've got somebody with the MV4 just backs up all the way and he's there with his teammates and they're all watching the cuts, it's a very easy bomb site if you get control of to win the round.
We had a little bit of a counter to it, so because a lot of teams would do that, so we sort of figured something out, right? And it sort of worked for us, not all the time, but it meant that if we'd done that and they'd done that, sometimes we'd be able to break their one more and they could break ours, sort of thing. So it was a strong map for us, and they took it out. I think they'd done it just to spite me. That's all it was like.
Watching you on the show and like, oh, okay then.
We'll get him.
Yeah, that's it. Gonna make sure we take that one out. But going into taking a look at a little bit more about Breakout then. Breakout for me, I think kind of works as a Search and Destroy map. The only thing is that one bomb site that's near the wall run.
Bomb site. Yeah. It's so close to defense.
Bomb site. Yeah, and it's a really awkward bomb site as well. Especially that low wall run, a lot of teams working away on getting into that one. I mean, but showers control is really kind of being a really important thing for that one. And snipers as well. First bloods with snipers is a big thing that we're seeing in that one, because they will go up towards that mid-map area and, they're picking off people for days. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see really going into the CWL. But you can just imagine it being that map 5 for these two teams. They need the win. Map 5's Breakout, Search and Destroy. They've not played it both. And, you're going to be really kicking yourself if that's the map that you get. But we'll have to wait and see.
The soonest we can see that one, I think, is it's possible this upcoming weekend for Envy versus Cloud9 and Splice versus Mindfreak.
See, if it was Mindfreak, you'd be a little bit happy about that, wouldn't you?
Actually, okay, wait. Oh no, that's second match. Crap. All right, fine. Let's say we will definitely see it play between Envy and Splice on their second meeting.
Okay.
So that'll be game number 2 in that one.
Who plays the more fast-paced Search and Destroy? It's normally European Call of Duty is known for that more than anything. American do play quite the slower pace. So, I mean, that B bomb site could be something that works in the favour for Splice. But then, you've got those NV4 powers and Envious holding down those mid-map lanes of sites. And especially if anyone decides to push out aggressively on that wall run, that's another thing as well that would fall into the favour of the AR players. So I think it's difficult for us to really sit here and go off anything when we haven't seen these two teams or any teams play this map as of yet. I don't think I've even seen a scrim on this map, or even I've not even seen a wager or anything at all on this map. So I played it a few times myself, but I've not seen pro players play it. So I think it's one of those.
Mate, you're just as good, bro. Don't do that to yourself, mate.
Do you know why I became a caster?
It's because you're good looking. You need to be in front of the camera.
That was definitely the reason. That was 100% the reason.
Wait, what?
You've seen him in the flesh. You just want to touch him. And then throw him across the room.
He's all right as long as he doesn't forget his suitcase.
Should we talk about that story, Paradox?
I feel like it's about not bringing stuff to an event.
Tony will be new to this story, but Tony will just shake his head like a father gutted with his child.
So you tell it, yeah.
Okay, so we're at UMG, me and Paradox have had a great weekend, and I'm like, okay, guys, my flight's soon. I mean, Paradox, your flight was on near to mine, but Paradox got extended for 2 hours, so I was the next person to leave the group. We're in the airport, and it's like my flight leaves at 6:30. So the gates shut open at 5 to 6, but the flight leaves at 6:30. It's about 6 o'clock, and Paradox and the guys that I'm with are like, yeah, let's go for food. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, okay, I've only got roughly half an hour to get to this gate. The gate's already open, and I've only got roughly half an hour, but there's a staircase to my right that says the gate's this way, so I'm assuming it's not far away. So I sit into the restaurant, we get food and everything, and it's about 6:20, Tony. It's about 6:20. I've got 10 minutes to board this flight. So I'm like, bye. I've got my backpack on. I'm running off. And I get to the staircase where I assumed the gate was round the corner, and it says 1 mile to gate 36. So I sprint. I literally run as fast as possible in my life. I'm sprinting. And I realized as I got to the gate that I didn't have my suitcase with me.
Meanwhile, we're like there eating everything. I look down. I'm like, is that Jack's suitcase? We're like, oh crap. So we're like trying sitting in message and everything, and then we're like, all right, we just gotta take it and go.
So I realized I wasn't connected to the Wi-Fi. I then connect to the Wi-Fi and have messages from Paradox, from Doug, who was there as well. Your suitcase is with us. So I run all the way back from the gate. I get to this door and I'm stopped by a woman that says, "You're not allowed back through here." What am I going to do? She's like, "Oh, all you're going to have to do is just wait. They're just going to have to take it to lost property and you're going to have to claim it when you land in England." I'm like, "I can't do that. Insomnia's in 2 days and all my suits and shirts are in this suitcase." It was like a scene from a movie. I just see Paradox and everybody sprinting towards me with my suitcase in hand. They get to the gateway, and the woman goes, "You can't just pass a suitcase through here. He's got to go through. You can't just pass a suitcase through here." So what happens was the guy who was with us, he just walks through as if he was about to board the next flight, and he just offhands this suitcase to me. It was like a drug deal. If we'd got spotted on CCTV, they're probably wondering what the hell's going to happen. So anyway, I get the suitcase, I sprint all the way back to the gate, and the woman is there, and the gate's closed. It's closed. So I'm sat there like, oh my! And I stood there and I went, "Look, listen." And I was thinking to myself, what type of lie can I do right now that will convince this woman to let me on this flight? And I was just stood there and I went, I've got to be there. I have to be in England by tonight. It's the last chance I get to see my mum before she flies to Africa, and she's gone for like 4 months. First thing that came to my head was that this
woman, like your mum's African, mate.
Looks at me like, what? And then she goes onto the phone. She's like, "Okay, I'll ring the pilot." She rings the pilot. And she's like, "One more passenger. He needs to get on this flight apparently because his mum's going to Africa." Like, she's repeating what I'm saying. He goes, "Right, okay, just let him on." So she turns around to me. She goes, "Right, you're the last person we're letting on this flight." The woman behind me, who was also late, didn't get on the flight. But she had to wait 7 hours for the next flight to England. I then got on the flight, and it was the luckiest. Like, I've never been so lucky. I mean, even before that, Paradox, the flight to Toronto, Tony, which was the airport I got lost at. I wasn't supposed to be on the flight with Paradox. I was supposed to be on the flight after.
Yeah.
And that flight got delayed for 7 hours. I luckily went with Paradox just because I wanted to stay with Paradox, and I ended up getting on their flight. So I just had the luckiest journey back. But I mean, yeah, there you go. Tony, if you was with me, you'd have slapped me about the place.
No, you wouldn't have been late. That's the difference. I'd have been like, "Jack, you're not eating. We're going. There's food on the plane. Let's get going." You know what I mean? This is why it's always last minute for the show as well. I'm not even surprised. Like, I'm not surprised. I know exactly what you're like.
Case sneaking through security type job came through, and really kind of worried me for the whole flight back. Paradox. I was thinking, if I can do that with my suitcase, what can the rest of the people on this? So somehow,
why Africa?
I have no idea.
This is what I'm not understanding. What was she going out to do? Missionary work?
I don't know what she was going out there for, but yeah, that was my story. I ended up working. Guys in the chat probably think I'm an idiot, but yeah. There you go. That was my story on me getting home. So thank you very much to Paradox and the crew for running with my suitcase. But let's move on a little bit with the show. Let's talk about Rostermania a tiny little bit. Some of the AM teams split up. Is that correct, Tony? I know I heard about that. Some of the AM teams disappearing. I know that Team Descend have gone LF1.
Yeah. I think they've actually split altogether, mate.
Okay.
Because they ain't got enough points. So it's all right, bruv. I'll keep. You know what I mean? I'll keep up with everything. Right. So basically, as a 3, they didn't.
And they said that they're LF1.
Yeah, but because the 3 of them didn't have enough points. They said there was 3 of them, and you're breaking up in my mind.
That's what I thought. I thought that as well because it was. I said to him,
they need like 15k points.
Yeah, because I said to him as well. I was like, yeah. So we're talking on the show tonight. I was talking to him. I was like, we're going to talk about how Team Descend are split, and he went, well, that's not the case because we've gone LF1.
When did you speak to him? Because they tweeted out there was all free agents.
Yeah, just before the show started. So I don't know about that one. I was in the same boat as you, Tony. I did honestly think that they did split.
Yeah, they treated that. They did.
We'll have to see with that one.
Yeah. Unless they get someone with 15k points.
Which is a lot of points for an individual. That's a lot of points. I mean, some pro players, is that like pro players kind of level?
That sort of level, like, they need something like that.
Yeah, and I just don't know if that's something that will end up happening. Taking a look into a little bit further, Plasnite Youth, they've split. Diamond left Expire Nation. That's another one that happened. Going into this one, then, we've got Benny joining us in a second. I just want to really quickly talk about the Zealous roster. Is that the roster you see sticking, Tony? Well,
I personally think that they should. Right. nothing against the other three lads. I think Benny is their sort of best player. I hope they don't mind me saying. I think he played the best at the event for him as well.
No, he had a great Lenny.
He has the least amount of points, but he's a good little player. And I think they work well. I mean, they obviously work well. They got where they got. So getting them, I think they'd be silly to split.
That was the one thing I wanted, Tony, because if you look at the Deserto interview with Trans, he did say that one of the only problems with the team was that Benny hadn't got enough points.
I think they've got to be realistic about it, and they could get someone in maybe who's got more points, but is he going to be as good? Like, Benny's a little S&D god, isn't it? Did you see him?
Yeah.
And even when they played Supremacy, like everyone else in the team, nothing against them, were going neg and that with like 20 seconds ill time. He was still positive with like a minute 30. Yeah. So it was literally like he had everyone in his backpack. If they get rid of him, they could potentially get more points with him, maybe. I mean, if they don't make it, they don't make it. But wouldn't you rather go to an event and do well as a team than chase this dream of getting to champs and just not get there anyway because your team's not good enough? At least if they stay with him for the next couple of months, stay as a team. If they do get the chance to play it, there'll be a set team, you know what I mean? They'll go in there with a bit of chemistry and that instead of going in any other way. And like I said, personally, I think they should stay. It ain't down to me. It ain't my team, mate.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if these rosters stick, though. But anyway, we're going to start to talk a little bit about the tournaments that happen, Paradox, over the week, we should say. We'd had loads of tournaments here on the Esports Hub. We had, to kick it off, was the 4v4 Infinite Warfare tournament, which we saw Minical and Johnny W win with the insane team named Bray Wyatt. Interesting name coming through. That was one that was really fun to cast. So we saw those taking the first one. Just so everybody knows as well that we are currently rendering those top 5 players from throughout both the tournaments. So do expect to see those on the YouTube very, very soon. On the YouTube. On the YouTube. Doesn't that sound like something that just doesn't sound right in my head for some reason? But yeah, you will see those clips going up soon. Top 5 players from both those 2 tournaments. Now, we had the Black Ops 2 one as well, Paradox. Now, I know you casted that with Maze. How did that go down? Anything big that we should have paid attention to from that one?
Okay, I already know Skittles was in the chat. I hope he's still watching the show. This guy, I don't know what in the world this man is made of. He went on like a 14 streak with an M8 on like Yemen Hardpoint. Or something like that. And I mean like inside of like Churchill with an M8. Just somehow still taking out people. We had 2 insane caps in CTF. One of them on raid with the, I think 18 seconds left maybe. It's like bare line what you can actually make it across the map in. Flag goes in. Another one, which I kind of don't want to spoil, happened at the end of the tournament to close things off. It was absolutely ridiculous.
It'll definitely make top 5.
Yeah, that 100%. That's in top 5.
Well, one of the biggest things happened, Tony, the most recent Infinite Warfare tournament. We saw pro players going up against top amateurs, and I don't know if you managed to get the chance to see that series, Tony.
I know.
My, it did go all the way. It was Bids 9's team, so it was Bids, Cryptic.
My boy Swift.
Here we go. Bids, Cryptic, Lone Wolf, and Swift Doesn't Miss.
My little boy.
Versus Niall, Delio, Brain, and Detain. Okay? So, Bid's team goes 2-0 up in the series, Paradox.
Mm-hmm.
The pro players team come back and take the next 2 games, tie the series up 2-2. It goes to game 5, Search and Destroy, and Bid's team wins round 11 to beat the pro players, Niall, Delio, Detain, and Brain, and the amateur team take the tournament in a round 11 Search and Destroy. Now, one thing for me, Cryptic was a player that went off, had an insane performance in that one. Also, then you look at Bids as well. Bids, he had a fantastic performance. Lone Wolf looked really, really strong as well, but it just did honestly go the distance, and we'll see that will definitely make top 5 players from that tournament. Went all the way. I kind of thought at the start, Paradox, that maybe the team that we expected to win, Niall's team, would kind of playing a bit slow, maybe not applying all their effort into it. That's the reason why they were 2-0 down. Then they bounced back with a 16-2 uplink to take it to 2-1. Then a 250 to 125 hardpoint to take it to 2-2. So, you know, they started to apply the pedal a little bit more and really started pushing for that one. And then it went all the way to the game 5 Search and Destroy, went all the way to round 11. And just to see the boys of this top amateur team. I mean, these are the type of guys, Tony, that we're expecting to see break through in the future. These are your guys that are going to be making the CWL, hopefully, in the future, they're underneath the age of 18, so they can't compete at these events as of yet. But do you agree with Tony? Likes of Bids, likes of Keza, likes of Cryptic, Swift, Lone Wolf, are these the guys we'll see in the future?
Well, most of them have been part of our youth team at one point. Swift's still with us, mate. I think they're insane. There's a reason why they do this. Don't get me wrong. A lot of the times, whether it's fair or not, the pros, when they play them, sometimes are in pickup teams like that, so it's not got the same sort of chemistry. You've got to think Bids and Swift and that have literally been playing together forever. I'm not taking nothing against them. I spoke to people at the event about how much I rated, and I've mentioned on there how much I rate them. And I speak to Bids and Swift often. You know what I mean? Bids, as many times as said, Bulldog's one of the only orgs he actually respects, and that, like, proper close to the two boys. I think a lot of them. Lone Wolf's good. I haven't actually seen Cryptic before. I wondered how he was going to do with them, so I'm glad that you said
he finished
that.
11 and 5 in the Search and Destroy, I think, or something like that. And I know that his final kill was the Scorchers. We got fully streaks as well. So
but yeah, like we back in the day, like we played with Swift. He come and picked up a game for us, and like it was in Neil, and Pat was messaging me, and Pat was like, "This kid's unreal." Like, and like I said, and then you got Keza, who's just like another level.
I mean, Keza. Paradox. You'll remember Keza from Black Ops 3 in the leagues. That guy is
the kid's sick, like.
But I think as well, something that I do actually really, really like, Tony, I think you'll agree, is the fact that these pro players do allow these players to play 8s with them. Like, they don't have to, they don't have to let them play. They don't have to let them play against them and make friendships with them. But I think it's good to see that the EU pros that are current at the minute are trying to help the scene grow by allowing.
Because it helps them. Like when Keza turns 18, people are going to be ripping his arm off. Yeah. Like, I think personally, to be honest, because the kid's good, and people might have already been in contact with some of the other younger ones about when they turn 18 soon. So it is what it is. Like they're good. See how we go though, innit? At the end of the day, like they've still got to do it, step up. Some people manage to make it, some people don't. You know what I mean? It isn't a guarantee because you're good in the unders that it works in the overs. The game changes a lot. There's a lot less sort of running and gunning, a bit more thinking about it. Especially as it's going to go boots in the ground the next game, mate. That could literally
change a lot.
I don't think it will, but that's what I'm saying. Some of these will never have played it properly, competitively at a high level, and all of a sudden it's going to go from you being able to cover the map in 15 seconds and it not really mattering as much if you die. So literally, if you lose your life, it's going to have a big influence. Definitely. So everything could change, but we'll see.
We'll have to wait and see what those amateurs can do anyway. But guys, that's everything from the Talkshow tournament. But before we go to the break, I'm going to have you cast a vote out now, because we said that we would do this, and every single time that we was live with our tournament, the power is now in your hands. You guys can now decide which tournament you would like to have on Tuesday. So you have the choice between Infinite Warfare, Modern Warfare Remastered, Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3. And then once you've decided which game you'd like, is it 4v4, 3v3 or 2v2? And then once you've decided that, is it which type of game mode we're going to play? Is it variant or is it a Search and Destroy tournament only? And when we do return from the break, we will have the final answer on which tournament we're playing on Tuesday. And we'll also be joined by the player from Zealous Esports, goes by the name of Benny G. Guys, don't go anywhere. A very, very quick break. Get voting so we can decide which tournament for Tuesday. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Esports Talk Show. My name is Campbell. Joining alongside me are the usuals, Paradox and Tony, but however we have a new face, and he is from the Zealous Esports organisation, currently competed this weekend at Insomnia 60 in Birmingham and managed to make it all the way through the open bracket and actually feature on the main stage against Millennium. Paradox is already giving you the money signs, throwing the money signs out there. The pro points would have been worth it as well, Benny, but we have to start off by saying, how are you, my man? You're on the talk show. How do you feel?
I'm decent. I'm happy with our performance this weekend, and just come here talk a little bit about how it went.
So this weekend, you had the chance to go up against the likes of Supremacy, one of the best French teams really going around, and then obviously you went up against another French organisation, but it's actually the ex-Infused roster, which was Millennium. For you, then obviously the Supremacy game was not as close as Millennium one, but which one did you actually find harder when you were playing?
With Millennium, I think, so obviously we had a little bit of a warm-up before we started, so that was quite a big factor with regards to the Millennium and Supremacy game, but I felt more like we gelled more as a team against the Millennium. We worked better as a team. We knew it was our first game in pool, so we knew we had to go out there and prove we can do this.
Yeah.
So we went out there, obviously the hard point, we lost, 20-30 points. We choked that massively, obviously PE with the 4-piece, obviously, to win them the game, which let's not talk about that. Then the S&D, obviously we won the S&D, so our S&D over the course of the weekend was unreal. That was our standout game mode by far. I think we lost 2 maps of S&D all weekend, so that was our best game mode. Uplink, we checked that again. We lost by 2 points. I think we start off with, we knew we could keep up with the slaying, so we were staying toe by toe, and then obviously you see where their experience shone through, where they took the lead, and then we just couldn't. No, it was close, but we just couldn't keep up with them. And then that next hard point on Scorch, I don't want to talk about that. I had a shocking performance myself. Obviously, I don't think people realise how hard it is when you've got pro players and they're all sat there snaking. So you walk around the corner and you've got 4 heads bobbing up and down, it's like whack-a-mole. Like, it's so hard. Like, it's just ridiculous. And then Supremacy, right? So we just got on main stage and I needed toilet, so I come back and they're saying we're starting, get in the game. So I've not had a warm up, nothing. So the hard point goes. Not going to take anything away from the team, but they weren't slaying like they were all weekend. So when we get outslayed, it's hard to keep up with the pro teams.
Yeah.
When you can't get in the positions that you're normally in, it's hard, and that's where you can see like the difference between the AM teams and the pro teams with like slaying wise. Because Supremacy, when we played them, they were just I don't know what it was. They just outslayed us. That's all it was. And then the S&D, we played S&D Retaliation against Supremacy, and I don't know what it was. I think people, because we got battered on the hard point, heads went down a bit. The S&D people weren't really listening, but at the same time, I'm not going to take it away. I wasn't listening as well. It was a team effort. You win and lose as a team, don't you? So,
well, that's the interesting thing, because I actually got the chance to cast that game versus Supremacy. Yeah. And one thing that I definitely realised a lot was the player Vortex on Supremacy. He had the help from Mousy. Mousy was an insane AR player throughout the entire weekend, but when you've got a player like Vortex whose goal is to get inside the hill with the ERAD and play really quite close quarter with the enemy team, Mousy was kind of just his escort. He would just watch over him and push Vortex into that position. It's kind of the similar thing that your team was trying to do with you, Benny, was that you had an ERAD in hand, you wanted to get into those objective areas, you wanted to play aggressive, but there was nobody on your team that was kind of replicating what Mousy was doing. And so you would have Benny a lot of the times would be fighting Mousy, who has an MV4, but Benny would have an ERAD. And that was just because it would come down to those individual gunfights. So that's one thing that I definitely saw. But looking at the positives and the outlook of this one then, Benny, and your organisation and your team, are you guys 100% confident then that you're sticking with this one going into EGL where there's more points to grab? You know, you've got Season 2 relegations, there's Call of Duty Champs qualifiers on the way as well. Are you definitely sticking as a team, or is there still a bit of ums and ahs? Obviously, you know, Trans mentioned with Deserto that you are the player with the lowest amount of points on the team, but do you still feel confident that your ability kind of just makes people forget about those points?
Well, we got home, we had a chat. We're 100% sticking as a team for EGL. So we're 100% sticking. With regards to what Trant said, that was just after we played Millennium on main stage. So that was if we didn't make our way, like, was it the champs bracket, wasn't it? The losers champs bracket.
Yeah.
So obviously, So we won our game, and that boosted my points up like loads. I think.
This weekend.
Yeah, so I went into this. I wanted to find a team for this event. People were saying they play with me. Like, people personally, I'd say are better players, but not as a team, if you get what I mean. So, like, the better players were saying to me, I'd play with you, but you haven't got enough points. So I've been searching for a team, and then I found these three. So to start off with, it was me, Cruisin', Trance and Vex instead of Fajelzi. Mm-hmm. And Vex and Trance, they were clashing all the time online, and you can't play with that. So we got rid of Vex, picked up Fajelzi, which is Norwegian. He's a foreigner, so but it worked really well. So his con online is it's naughty. Trust me.
They're coming over here taking all our jobs.
Trust me. Yeah, but his shot is unreal. And when I was seeing him playing at the event, I was like, he's good, him. So, but us four, as a team, we work really well. That's the best thing about this team.
Well, one of the things I took from it was Cruisin' was very consistent that weekend. Probably one of the better events I've seen from Cruisin'. Cruisin', obviously one of those players that has been like replaced in the past because of the consistency that he has. I know his team was staged before. He was at I-59 as well when Bulldog were the champions of that one. And I think like Cruisin' was just waiting. Where's that check, Tony? Get that check out.
It's literally there. I can read it.
But he's one of those players.
And put the check up.
But he's one of those players I think like was just waiting for the right team and the right amount of people around him, or the right people around him.
I'm not gonna lie. Before I was playing with him online, people were saying to me like, "Your team's gonna choke." Obviously, Trance has got no composure. Cruisin' isn't good. Fajelzi's foreign. He ain't gonna play well. And I'm not going to sit there and say we've got the hardest bracket in the world. Because I've seen loads of people on Twitter go on about, they're being blessed by that. But at the end of the day, on paper, we had a harder run. So we was going to play the Spanish team, MRN. Yeah. They ended up losing to a Elevate Evo Gaito Beep. So I'm not going to disrespect people, but they lost to randoms, basically. And then we played them, and we shit on them, but that's not my business. But we beat them, and then it was Aerox, Copley's team.
Yeah,
they had a very good event as well. So they beat Stroke Unit, ex-Stroke Unit team. So Amar Cod and that, which I think they were the highest seed in open bracket, something like that. So but then they lost to Aerox. So at the end of the day, we can't help the teams that beat the better teams on paper. So when I've got people on Twitter going, "You've had an easy run," I'm not saying I haven't had an easy run at all, but on paper we had a harder run than we should have had.
Do you know what it is, mate? I just think you made it look easy.
It must have been that. But like I said, yeah, our team we're sticking, and I think we've got to work on things, as we can tell. Watch the stream games back. There's things we know we need to work on. So it's now just putting in the time and effort and hopefully prove something.
Well, one of the interesting things as well was that Cruisin' actually came out of open bracket with one of the better search and destroy KDs in the entire event. And then I don't know what happened. He goes up against Millennium, Supremacy, and just had a really bad search and destroy. So there's little things like that. I guess one question I have to ask you then: do you kind of agree then that one of the main reasons why you lost that Millennium series was not necessarily talent but just experience?
If I'm honest, I don't know what went wrong. I really don't know what went wrong. It was I think at the same time it was a bit of composure as well. Obviously, it's my first time playing against the pro team on LAN, and then on the main stage as well. So
events for like a year and a half as well, bruv.
Yeah, this is so I've only just turned 18 in March as well. Mm-hmm. So I've come into that event with 1.9k pro points. Like, that's basically none to nothing, is it, compared to most people? And I've been out there for 2 years now, innit? My last event was on AW, so I've not been at an event for 2 years. I've come against pro team on a main stage that I've never played on again. So at the end of the day, it's just just working on things, isn't it? And just getting better as a team. That's the only thing you can do to find it out.
It's little steps, mate. It's little steps.
Exactly. So, I'm excited to see what future holds as well.
Yeah, obviously. But we went to the chat, though, to ask some questions for you, Benny. And one of the questions that got repeated a lot, and if anybody knows Benny G on a personal scale or knows him as a player online, he does like to shout one specific thing as a form of insult to people, and it is, "You're a dobber." Now, the question that's been in the chat quite a lot, Benny, is people are wanting to know, what does "you're a dobber" mean? So, Benny, in the nicest way possible, without remembering that this is a children's show, people who watch this who are under the age of 18, can you explain what a dobber is?
Right. A dobber, right? Up north where I am in England, right? So a dobber, right? Picture this, right? So I'm going to set you a picture, right? So you're outside Craig's, right? And this big woman of a bloke, like a big woman, like with greasy hair, leggings, right, high tops, and just like an Everlast jumper on with all crumbs down her, starts walking past. She's a right dobber, her, isn't she? Like, do you understand where I'm coming from? She's just a pure dobber. And then the family of dobbers, they all look the same, don't they? They're all just dobbers. So, but that's the nicest way I can think about putting it. It's just dobber.
If that was the nicest way, I'm really glad I didn't.
God, mate, and don't go like writing poetry or.
And if that was the nicest way, I'm kind of glad if the nicest way that I didn't ask him for the worst way that you could explain what a dobber is. But anyway, for anybody in the chat that wanted to know what a dobber is, there you go. You now are aware that is what a dobber is. But anyway, Paradox, you're looking here. Somebody in the chat, somebody in the call, sorry, with us here, Benny G, a player who's kind of in the top amateur type area of Call of Duty for European Call of Duty. Any questions from him from the American side of things? Anything you want to ask him that you're interested in knowing?
I just really want to know how highly do you weigh your previous performance, and how will that experience help you going forward?
Obviously, being we want to. How am I going to explain this? Right, listen here, Tony, right?
Imagine you're outside Greg's. We were the team that was coming out in the Everlast jersey.
Right, you're just a dobber, Tony, right? Leave it there. Right, so we've got EGL coming up, haven't we? So, obviously, us as a team, we know that we can hang with the top level. So, we know that we can hang with Millennium. Supremacy, I'll leave that as a one-off. Right, so, that's a one-off, but we know we can perform at the top level. So with the experience of us knowing that we can perform at that top level, I reckon going into EGL, our confidence will be sky high as well. Yeah. So our confidence will be very high. So we'll know that we can beat teams. It's just putting it into practice, if you get what I mean. So we've got to just work on things online and then prove that we can do them on LAN. Because we played we played Fabe for T12 on the Sunday morning. We lost the hard point retaliation by a couple. It must have been like 40 points. S&D we won again, so we know our S&D is very good. Uplink we lost in overtime. I was quite annoyed with that one because we played really well in that uplink as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know how we choked it. It's just these little small things that were costing us games.
And that's what it is. That's what it's about. It's about, working on these things, and I think that's the idea that Benny has as well with this team. Like you said, you're sticking, so it's a case of just working on those things, going into EGL and onto those future events.
He's turned into a little bit of a diva though. He started to make demands. He's now. I've seen the pictures where he's refusing to go if the hotel don't have a gym in it.
Nah, the gym's a big factor. I'm not even lying. The gym is a big factor. You pump on, can't you? Walk out.
He honestly has. He said, I've seen a message where he said, one more thing, that the hotel needs to have a gym. If it doesn't have a gym, I'm not going.
You can imagine, though, there's so many people in the Call of Duty scene demanding salaries now, but Benny G's just demanding fitness first membership.
Mate, you should have seen us in the gym in the morning. It was funny as anything like that.
Well, it was great having you on, Benny. Probably one of our more fun shows that we've ever had with our guests before. Way less serious, but that's kind of what we like to have here. We like it to be chilled and a bit more of a talk show vibe. And we can't thank you enough for joining us. And honestly, every single person here from the Esports Hub does wish you the best of luck going into EGL, hoping that you can once again replicate the same performance and this time come out a little bit more on top and get those points that you need for Season 2 relegations and also Call of Duty Championship qualifiers. But guys, that's everything here done for us here at the Esports Hub. But we've got one more thing to kind of clear up, and that's the vote that we asked for earlier on. So we did ask everybody that was tuning in to have a vote on what tournament they want to be featured on Tuesday. Now this one will be streamed and casted, and the winner is Call of Duty Black Ops 3 4v4 variant. So that is going to be the tournament that we host on Tuesday, streamed and casted by Paradox, myself, and whoever else we can get on board with that one. Maybe we might even get Tony casting a few games. That one might be quite interesting. Maybe we'll get him on and see what his insight on that is. Or we'll go over to the analyst desk.
Me and Benny casting a game would be amazing.
But we'll have to wait and see what we can work out for that one. But thank you very much to everybody that tuned in once again here on the Esports Hub Talk Show. We're joined by Benny. Thank you very much for joining us, Benny.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Paradox, for being here once again.
Always.
Thank you very much, Tony. And also, thank you very much to our production team and everybody that helps us run the show here. We'll catch you next Thursday for another talk show where we'll be talking about those games that we had predictions on for the Global Pro League, and we'll also catch you on Tuesday for our 4v4 Call of Duty Black Ops 3 variant tournament. I've been Campbell. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good night.